We have heard that almost all plants like well-drained soil. But what is a well-drained soil? Simply put, it is a substrate medium which allows the water to drain at a moderate rate without the water puddling. They neither drain quickly nor too slow. This is important indoors as the airflow and sunlight condition indoors is quite different from that outdoors. If it drains quickly, then the water cannot be absorbed by the roots of the plants, and if it drains slow, then this can clog the roots and hinder the oxygen intake in the soil. Today we'll talk about certain things that we can do to make our potting soil more suitable for plants in indoor conditions. So let us get straight into the recipe. According to me, potting soil consists of 3 parts. First is something to hold the plant, that is the substrate. Second is something to make the medium more airy and porous, that is the drainage. And third is something to make the medium more nourishing, and that is the nutrients. As substrate, we can use either normal garden soil or the indoor potting mix that we get from the store, or even coco peat. I mainly use this cactus soil mix as my main substrate for the indoor plants. I buy this from the local garden center. We can actually use only this for our indoor plants. It mainly consists of normal soil, sand and some perlite. I feel this potting mix is still not well draining enough, so I add some more ingredients to this mixture. The next ingredient according to our formula is something for the drainage. For this we could use either perlite, vermiculite, gravel, stones, sand or even orchid bark. All this provide good drainage to our medium. I use a mixture of perlite and orchid bark or even coco peat for drainage. Orchid bark and coco peat not only provides drainage but can also hold a little bit of moisture without making the medium dense. The last ingredient in our mixture is something to nourish the medium. For this we could use homemade compost, worm castings, cow manure. I use worm castings or homemade compost, whichever I have with me at the moment. They are slow releasing fertilizers which are not going to be heavy on the plants. So these are the 3 main ingredients I use in my potting soil mix. But the percentage of mixing these ingredients depends on several factors like type of the plant, location of the plant, type of pot in which the plant is located. It also depends on what kind of person are you. Do you tend to underwater your plant or overwater your plant? For most of my tropical plants like pothos, philodendron, monstera, I use 60% of the substrate itself. In my case, it is cactus soil mix. 20% will be the drainage ingredients, which is a mixture of perlite, orchid bark, and coco peat. This will make the mixture more airy and porous. And the rest of the 20% is compost or worm casting to provide nutrients for the plants. This is not a strict formula that I follow. I usually eyeball the amount of each ingredient. Once I get the feeling that the soil is well draining enough, I go ahead and pot the plant. Now we have talked about my basic potting soil mix, but there are 2 more categories of plants where this formula needs to be changed a little bit. On one end of the spectrum, we have plants that like their medium dry for the most part. Plants like CC plant, snake plant, succulents, and cactus all come under this category. What I would change in my formula is that I will not add orchid bark and coco peat as they hold more moisture which these plants don't want. Instead, I'll increase the percentage of perlite. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have moisture or humidity loving plants like ferns, calatheas, peace lily. For them, I add less perlite and more orchid bark and coco peat, as they can retain more moisture without making the substrate dense. So that is generally how I mix potting soil for my indoor plants. You can also use the same potting medium for all kinds of plants. That should also work, but you might have to keep an eye on your watering schedule. You might have to water your calatheas and ferns more often than your succulents and cactus. But if we change the formula a little bit according to the plant's needs, we can mostly get away with 1 watering day for almost all the plants. And this is the main motivation why I use different potting mixture for different type of plants. Anyway, I suggest you use a well-draining potting mix for all your indoor plants, preferably mix on your own, because I've seen that most of the mixture that you get from the garden center is quite dense and is not well draining enough. So as I mentioned before, you could adjust this formula according to your tendency to overwater or underwater your plants. For example, if you tend to underwater your plants like me, you could add orchid bark or cocoa peat to the mixture so that they can retain more moisture. But if you tend to overwater your plants, then reduce the amount of these elements. I hope you got an idea of how to mix your own potting soil. My goal in this video was not to give you a prescribed formula of my potting soil mixture, but instead make you aware of certain factors that you should consider before mixing your own potting soil. You could replace the things that I used in this video with whatever that is locally available in your place. If you have any remarks or questions, kindly comment down below or message me on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Bye and take care.